JDM cars have shot to the moon in the past decade, taking the halo cars such as the GTR and Mark IV Supra out of reach. As we turn to the next closest options, these two will follow supply and demand, rocketing in price. So pick out an option from this video and buy whilst you can. Our first car is known by two names, the Mitsubishi 3000 GT and the Dodge Stealth. These cars came with a selection of V6 engines including a twin-turbo. They also have active aerodynamics in the form of front and rear spoilers, alongside four-wheel steering, adaptive suspension and four-wheel drive in some models. Made to compete with the Nissan 300ZX and Toyota Supra, cars we will talk about later in this video, the 3000 GT was the flagship car for Mitsubishi. The early models even featured pop-up headlights. The top-spec VR4 and RT turbos came equipped with a twin-turbocharged 3-liter dual-overhead cam V6 engine producing 300 horsepower in the US, 286 in Europe and 276 in Japan. Expect to pay between £8,000 to £12,000 depending on the model year in the UK or $12,000 plus stateside. Do not expect a VR4 however, as these will cost double this at $24,000 plus, still a good investment if you can afford it. An RT Turbo Dodge Stealth will cost around $14,000, making it more affordable but less desirable than the Mitsubishi variant. Next, we have a car that showcases the vast price difference between the UK and US markets, the second-generation Toyota MR2. This came equipped with a 2-liter turbo in the US producing 200 horsepower. Europe never officially got a turbo variant, but many did find their way to the UK. The MR2 was dubbed the baby Ferrari, or the poor man's Ferrari due to its similar design to the 308 and 348 models from the Italian automaker. They also came with a T-top or T-bar option. Toyota dedicated a large amount of time to the car's handling, drafting in racing drivers such as Dan Gurney to aid in its development. The cost for all this today is $17,000 however. UK cars are considerably cheaper at £6,000 for a turbo despite them not being offered originally. Is this some form of JDM tax on American cars? Let us know in the comments if you have any thoughts on why JDM cars fetch such a premium stateside. Moving to a car that holds similar value on both sides of the pond, we have the Nissan 300ZX, also known as the Z32. These came equipped with two engines, both 3 liters in displacement in a V6, however the most powerful came with a pair of turbochargers. The car also had an option of a T-top like the MR2, a nice addition to the car. In 1990 a collaboration of tuning companies produced the SR71 variant. With a host of changes including new turbos, the SR71 claimed the title of the third fastest production car in the world in 1990. Do not expect to find one easily as total production numbers are not known and only 500 a year were planned. Looking at the standard cars, a turbo is going to cost you in the region of $27,000 however, non-turbo cars can be found for as little as $12,000. Turbos can be found much cheaper in the UK with cars starting from £11,000. Whichever way you go, these cars receive huge praise and hold up today as one of the best designs of the last few decades. Our next two cars have a big gap in cost between the US and UK. It is unclear if they will continue to rise so sharply in value, but both the Mazda Miata or MX-5 and the Toyota Celica are great JDM cars. The Miata is probably the best known of the two, with this reflected in its cost. Stateside a decent Miata will cost you $9,000, with better examples closer to double this price. You do get probably the most iconic roadster of all time, a car that has been copied numerous times but was never beaten. The UK market is similar but much cheaper, with decent examples being found for £2,500 upwards. If you can find a decent example, the aftermarket scene is unparalleled and you will find a host of engine-swapped cars or turbo conversions on YouTube if you fancy a project. Stock specs are nothing to write home about, but that was never the point of the Miata. It was, and still is, a lightweight sports car that will make you smile regardless of its power levels. The Toyota Celica is lesser known but still a fantastic option. Prices are actually very similar to the Miatas, with US cars at around $8,000 and UK cars from £2,000. These are definitely cars that could increase in value in the coming years. The base GT cars came with a 140 horsepower 1.8-liter engine, with higher spec GTS models getting a 180 horsepower version. This engine was very high revving and made for a great car to drive. The Celica was lighter and cheaper in its 7th and final generation to attract a younger audience. They even went as far as placing the window and door controls in the center console to save weight over 2 separate units on each door. Our next car is a regular for any video covering great cheap cars, the Nissan 350Z/Infiniti G35. We have covered these cars in many videos and we are sure you are all aware of their pedigree. Both came with 3.5-litre V6 engines, with the top cars producing 300 horsepower. Their reputation does keep their prices high, and who knows where they could go from here, but expect to pay $9,000 for a decent example or £5,000 in the UK. The cars did go through various changes over the years, with multiple power outputs and standard option changes. The 350 was slung to fame after the 2006 Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift film featured them heavily as villain cars, driven by the Drift King himself amongst others. Don't mistake these cars as one-trick ponies. They are great drift cars but also track cars and GT cars, with the 350 being more track-focused and the G35 more of a GT cruiser. Our final two cars are lesser-known versions of JDM royalty. If you have enjoyed the video so far, please consider giving it a like so it can be shared with more like-minded enthusiasts. We would really appreciate it. Back to the cars, the first of which is the FC Mazda RX-7. Now we all know the FD, these are very expensive. Even an LS-swapped FD will cost you $30,000, with rotary examples double this price. This is where the FC comes in. These can be found for as little as $12,000. You can get both naturally aspirated or turbocharged versions, with non-turbo cars being cheaper. However, any RX-7 is a great car. Taking design cues from the Porsche 928, the FC was designed as a sports tourer, pairing sports car handling with a grand touring ride quality that makes it a great all-round sports car. If the FD is anything to go by, expect the FC to continue to gain value as the Holy Grail cars become harder and harder to find. Our last car follows the same pattern as the FC. We are talking about the Mark III Toyota Supra. Now the Mark IV is $60,000 plus. We even have a video on supercars that are cheaper than this. As such, the third generation starts to look very attractive. Offered in naturally aspirated or turbocharged forms, with both displacing 3 liters, the Supra packed a punch, with the later models housing the now infamous 1JZ GTE, an engine we covered in our greatest straight-six engines video. Power ranged from 200 to 276 horsepower. The cost of all this is $25,000 or £10,000. Now this is on the higher end, but could this be a sign of things to come for some of the other models we have covered? Only time will tell. Which of these cars would you buy, or do you think we have missed some great options? Let us know in the comments. Whilst you are here, why not check out some of our other great videos? Thank you for watching and we hope to see you again very soon.